Are you a business looking for a fresh new way to reach potential customers? Well, you need to get airtime on IT TV, a 24/7 streaming and on-demand TV service online and on Roku. With Roku having a potential reach of 62 million people, it's a perfect opportunity to reach potential customers through affordable commercial and infomercial spots. Visit us online today at itnetwork.tv.
Good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and we have a very interesting show for you today. Our guests from all over the world. Now, I know there's someone in your network, someone in your neighborhood, maybe someone in your house who needs this information. Maybe they're just starting their new business. Maybe they're an entrepreneur, or maybe they've been doing this for 50 years. It doesn't matter. But this is an opportunity for them to learn from the experts. And they will not have this information unless you go ahead and share the show with them. So send that tweet, send that text, make that post, send that email, wake somebody up. But as I always say, friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're introducing the show to your friends, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, Mr. Rocco Strider. Rocco is a multi-skilled individual who has spent more than a decade building assets of value, covering marketing, sales, operations, management, public relations, business development, legal, financial, and administration, to name a few. He's a highly skilled in commercial and retail business development and fundamental and technical analysis of financial markets, including commodities, Forex, and crypto. Good morning, Rocco. How are you?
Hi, Sharifa. Thank you so much for the invitation. Such an honor to be with you on the show.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you on the show and to learn all about what you have going on. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you passionate about?
Sharifa, I spent more than a decade in the downstream oil sector before getting involved in the financial markets. I think just at the boom of where the retail traders and investors came on with that whole surge of people getting involved in financial markets, it used to be so close to the institutions. Financial advisors, no one really knew what was going on. Educated myself, found some mentors, and then became passionate about financial education. We took that financial education, we brought it to the people on our platforms through stuff like the SGM podcast, where we have weekly guests that come on, share their value and knowledge, talking about business, tech, and finance, and basically educating our audience how to make better financial decisions, how to uplift yourself, how to upskill yourself, and how to get involved in the financial economy without getting left behind, and doing so in a safe and responsible manner.
Oh, wow. And you're calling in from South Africa.
That's right. Beautiful, sunny South Africa. If anyone listening from the UK, from the US, from Australia, from Asia, South Africa is open for tourism. Please come and enjoy our sunshine, our beautiful wines, our vineyards, our mountains, our beaches. South Africa is open for travel.
I love it. I hadn't planned to go to South Africa anytime soon, but now, based on your announcement, I'm heading to South Africa as soon as I get out of here. Now, I'm going to come back to you, Rocco. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Mr. Miles Kessler. Miles helps mindfulness meditators move through the progress of insight, awaken to their spiritual potential, and apply their personal wisdom to the world. Mediators. I'm struggling with words today, Miles. You have to help me.
Okay, no problem.
How are you?
Yeah, sorry. I think? Yeah, I do. Doing good. First, Sharifa, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. And what can I say? I'm a teacher of both Aikido and meditation. Right now, I'm actually in my dojo here in Tel Aviv. I'm American from Dallas, Texas, originally. Spent 8 years living in Japan in my 20s and 30s studying Aikido. Then after that, I went on to study meditation full-time in Burma, places like Burma and Nepal. So I spent another 8 years going every winter into meditation centers in the jungles and the mountains. And I basically spent 3 years on silent meditation retreats. And since then, I kind of settled here in Israel. And for the past 15 years, I've been teaching both Aikido and meditation to people here in Israel. Also, the West Bank. I have a nonprofit organization called Aikido Without Borders, but we're working between Israelis and Palestinians. And in non-COVID times, I'm usually traveling several times a year, teaching in Europe, United States, and other parts of the world. And I also have an online business called the Integral Dojo, where I lead trainings mostly in meditation, but also some personal development and Aikido-based trainings. So yeah, that's me. I'm a father, have 2 kids, and they're around here today, so they may pop into the show at some point.
Well, I have questions for the kids, but I want to go back to something you said, because we're going to discuss this.
Sure.
Silence. 3 years.
Yeah.
What was that about?
It was great.
You were silent?
I mean, I'm a talker. I got a feeling that you and Rocco and I are all talkers. We have a gift for the gab, or else we wouldn't be on these platforms doing our things.
Yes.
But, there's something about, when you want to, how can I say this? To really make progress through the meditative practice, you have to enter into successively subtle states of being. And it takes a certain amount of concentration. It takes a lot of mindfulness and attention. It takes skillful guidance from teachers, and then the practice will unfold quite naturally. And in order to do that, there are the type of meditation I practice was Buddhist Vipassana meditation, and it's a 2,500-year-old tradition. And they figured some things out over 2,500 years about how to meditate. So one of them is really minimizing your day to make, to live a very, very, to optimize living a mindful life. So, basically wake up at 4 a.m., start meditating. You have a meal at 6 a.m., you have a meal at noon, no more food for the rest of the day. You have a break in the evening, and then you just practice till basically 9 p.m., go back to your room, go to sleep for a few hours, get up, do it again, all in silence, with the exception of your one meeting with the meditation teacher every day. So about 15 minutes, you're talking about your practice, and they're helping you and guiding you. And then you go back into silent practice. And it is, it feels a little bit like a caged animal at the beginning under those conditions. But once the body, mind kind of get into the groove of things, it is heaven. To not have to talk, to not have to deal with things, to not have to, just deal with the normal stuff that we deal with all day long. There's volunteers in the center that are, when it's time to eat, your food is there. The only thing you have to do is take care of your clothes and your personal hygiene and meditate. That's the whole kind of lifestyle. And it's not something I would do for my whole life, but for 8-year period, I was dedicated to doing it every winter on long retreats. So altogether, it was about 3 years. And of course, I still have my daily practice.
I want to know what inspired you to do that. What was the catalyst? What was the aha moment because I want to do a lot of things with my life. Staying silent for 3 years is one of them. So I'm assuming there was something that happened that I don't know, and I would like to know what that was for you.
Well, it took some time to get there. I went to this practice in my late 30s, early 40s. So it kind of took some time before I was doing that. I basically had, first, let's go way back. When I was a child, when I was about 3 years old, I had some type of, who knows what it was, some type of spiritual experience that as a three-year-old child, I had no way of understanding it or referencing it. I wasn't raised in any type of, spiritual tradition or religious family or anything like that. But I was playing with a little goofy doll on the front porch of my home in Farmers Branch, Texas. On the front porch of my home in Farmers Branch, Texas. It was summer. The cicadas were active. I remember it. It's crystal clear. And suddenly I just had this kind of direct experience with reality, kind of unfiltered. Usually we see the world through, I'm American, I'm Israeli, I lived in Japan. We see the world through, through lenses. Rose-colored lenses, shit-colored lenses. Excuse my language. Sorry, Sherry. Whatever. We have ways of seeing the world. Everybody does, including me. But for some reason, at that point, it just disappeared, and there was no internal monologue, no internal dialogue, no anything, no references. And it was just a direct experience with reality. At the time, I had no idea what it was. Lasted about 5 minutes, and I went back to being my normal little 3-year-old self. But for some reason, it stayed as a reference point for me. And I wasn't consciously seeking that, but I did find that when I would do sports and play as a child, I would get into a flow state. And in the flow state, it was always timeless. It was always effortless. It was always free, and there was no sense of self, and it was just pure joy. And so I played more. So I did more sports, and that became kind of my pursuit and my passion. Only now, many, many years later, did I realize that I was actually trying to get back to that place that somehow is not bound by the fears and desires of the sense, our daily normal ways of being. I have to worry about the finance. I have to worry about the kids. I have to worry about being on time for Sharifa. Where are the other guests? Oh my God. All of these things that we all deal with. God bless us all. We do our best, and that's great. We have to do that. We grow. We become better people by facing those things with the right attitude. But also, when those disappear, there's always a sense of there's just no problem. There's a sense of freedom. There's a sense of emotional agility, and just how we relate to the world. And so that became first. I was pursuing that through sports and martial arts. And then I moved to Japan at 25, and I really, over 8 years of really training full-time, hardcore in a traditional Japanese dojo, I really excelled to kind of the top of the hierarchy. But I realized that I was hitting a glass ceiling, and that what I was looking for, I wasn't finding in just purely physical pursuits. And that's when I made the shift and went over to practicing meditation more or less full-time for those 8 years.
Wow, very interesting. What are your
So
thoughts?
interesting. Come again? What are my thoughts?
Mhm.
It's really interesting because there's a giant overlap between being mindful and like that mindset, because we say and we teach that trading and investing is 90% mental. So we actually even have something like performance coaches that helps us, like, if the market is down or the market is red or whatever, then it sort of you become overcome with emotion, and these decisions are not emotional decisions. So we advocate the cutting off of noise, and that's what resonating with Miles's message with me is: cut the noise, declutter the noise. All your CNBC, your Fox News, your CNN, whatever dispelling doom and gloom, just try and stay as far away from I would say, your institutional broadcasters and the effect that it has on what it is that you do. And that's what resonating for me.
So what do you do when you cut off the noise? What do you focus on?
Family first. Because have you ever just switched off your phone and been present with your children? Because what happened these days we are like this. I go out, and I think Miles will attest to what I'm saying is, children will be there and they'll come, daddy, or mommy, and you will be, I'm just updating my Twitter. I'm just updating my, you know what I mean? And for me, I think that process began with the birth of my first child. I realized what it meant to be present and part in the moment and be there, because all that children really want is your love and affection. Parents seem to think they want money, but they don't. They want to be heard, because there's that saying, sorry, Miles, children need to be seen and not heard. That's bullshit. Sorry, but children want to be heard. They want to be validated because they've got opinions and they've got emotions and they're growing. So I make sure when my 3-year-old is there and when the 8-month-old is there, there's no phones. Me and my wife, we are present, co-parenting in the moment, and their needs come above anything else. There is a time and a place for technology. And so for me, when I unplug, I just go to family, because that's where my focus point is. So I would say find a focus point. If your focus point is sport, go and play golf, go and practice whatever you do, but just find that focus point so you can declutter from the noise.
Yes. So Miles, Rocco said you'd attest to it. What are your thoughts on what he had to say about cutting down the communication and the noise?
Yeah, I mean, there's noise and there's signal, and I think what Rocco is saying is,
Yeah.
when we locate signal, that's what's really that's what's really important, or that's what's really valuable. And it could be anything. It could be in the middle of finances. It could be in the middle of parenting, relating to our kids. It could be in the middle of a roundtable talk show. What's really relevant about us gathering here? I mean, three really kind of, Sharifa, you put together I can't imagine you putting together a more different set of guests at your round table. Right. But here we are. We're somehow trying to find what's really relevant and share, communicate, and explore and learn with and from each other. And to do that, we have to really kind of, I love what Rocco was saying. We have to sort out the noise, sort out the signal from the noise.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I wanted to hear what Miles had to say, Rocco, but I want to go back to my question a little bit, because maybe I wasn't that specific, because you mentioned when you were talking about trading, not to listen to the news and different things were going on. So how do you make your decisions if trading or investing is an emotional decision? How do you make your decisions without listening to these other?
Right. That's the thing. So there's two principal schools of thought. One's called technical analysis, and the other one is called fundamentals. So those are the two that we are guided by. Technical analysis would be looking at charts. Some call it predicting the future or reading tea leaves or whatever they want to call it, but it's not. It's just patterns that are reoccurring. And the other one would be fundamentals, looking at stuff like PE ratios, company financials, sort of the financial background stuff. And so what would happen is there would be a piece of news and it would be interpreted by a novice investor or trader as being really positive. And then when they would climb into the market, then the market would have an adverse reaction to the news, which is, if you understand how the financial markets work, it's designed in that way because who owns the major news outlets? It is the big money. It's the 99%. So you would have, oh no, everything is fine. Like with the COVID correction, everything is fine. And then suddenly out of the blue, this correction, this black swan enters the market and everyone loses a ton of money. But if you followed your technicals and you followed your fundamentals, it would have been obvious that, hey, we are due for a massive market correction at any stage now. But if you follow the news media saying, hey, there's a $2 trillion bull run coming, you would most likely or possibly have invested a lot of money and lost it all during that correction, which was very violent.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Now, over the past 2 years during this global pandemic, were you someone who was in an office trading, or, have you always worked at home? How has this affected your life?
Working from home has been very interesting because when I transitioned from, let's call it corporate, to working from home, you have to set boundaries for yourself, because what I found is work blends into private life blends into work. When you are working in an office, it's only work. You go, you sit there, you work, whatever. When you come home, that's when the trouble starts. So it could be a small little thing. You're sitting on the family table or eating dinner, and then you get an email or a text coming through, hey, I need you to look at this, or hey, this is happening. And then it's a conscious decision, do I leave this or do I take it? Because if you make that differentiation between what is an office space and what is a living space, then that's easy. So this is standing over till tomorrow, I can deal with it later. Now work from home, where is that boundary? If the boundary isn't there, so I had to make sure the boundaries are there to say, this is the time that I'm allocating to work, and this is the time that I'm allocating to family. And I think work from home, well, it got thrusted on us, but a lot of people are thriving in it, right? I mean, we've got things like the Great Resignation going on. People are like saying, I don't want to work for I'm going to use your example, corporate America, where I get paid 7, 8, 10, whatever dollars an hour. I've got a specific skill set. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start a business from my home. Some people are finding it difficult to obviously adapt, but I can't see working from home going away. I can see it moving to a hybrid model, maybe between working from home and going back to the office again at some stage, maybe 2022, 2023, if you hear the big tech companies talking about what they're looking at. So yeah, I mean, setting those boundaries are absolutely key. But I mean, your kids could like come through the door anytime if they're like in a situation. I'm trying to hear if I don't hear the pitter patter of tiny feet now.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love the pitter patter of little feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one is pitter patter and the other one is barely started crawling. So I don't know what that is. That's not as cute as pitter patter.
It's probably a little squish. Little
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's fun. It's interesting. In the whole work from home thing, I think, I was teasing my mom because she always worked in the office. Corporate America, works for a large health care company. And then she had to work from home and she had to adjust. And then about 6 months in, and they were like, you have to go back to work. And she's like, no, I'm not going back. I'm like,
I'm not.
It's addicting.
You know what? Because I had someone on the SGM podcast, Ryan Trotko, he works for GBC Global, and he talked to me like he almost got emotional because he worked in New York and it took him 2 hours to commute, right? So and then it was going to work, going back, eating, sleeping, rinse and repeat. No social life, no exercise, and now it's sort of all working remotely. So he can like get up at a reasonable time. He works out, he logs in, and you know what? They're making more money. They are like more productive. Everyone's happier. Why can't this be the template for going forward? I'm not saying that it's a one size fits all solution, but to say, yeah, we need to go back to normal. What is normal? And I mean, is that even the best thing for everyone?
No, I think this is the new normal. And I laugh because I'm like, welcome to my world.
Right, exactly.
It is. I've been at work. I love it. I've been trying to work from home for probably like nearly 30 years. Miles, what are your thoughts?
Before, because I've had my online business for about 5 years now.
Right.
And we started out before Zoom really took on. I was using something called Maestro Conference which was just an audio conference call software, but it was great. We were running courses; it was really good. But and then we shifted to Zoom about 4 years ago. But the hardest thing to do in my industry, which was with the Aikido kind of martial arts Aikido community and the meditation community, one of the hardest things to do was to get because I do a lot of exchanges with other teachers, was to get them up to speed with Zoom, get them up to speed with emails and mailing lists and things like that. So that's changed. Now it's like, the average person has kind of caught up with the industry standard in a way. So we are going through a very interesting cultural, social transformation, and for better and worse. But I'm more of an optimist, so I tend to kind of focus on, what's better here and what are the opportunities and how do we have greater ways of connecting. And as an entrepreneur, oh my God. There's a lot of work behind this. I'm sure, Sharif, that you do a lot to keep this show going. So there's a lot of work behind it, but the amount of people that we can reach with our platforms it's wonderful, and the potential is just like mind-blowing.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I found, and I'm also the vice president for the Holistic Chamber of Commerce here in Long Beach, but one of the things that I found is that holistic people who love to meditate, don't want to focus on the business aspect of it. So when you're talking about trying to get them to do Zoom, they're like, no, I just want to sit here and
guilty is charged.
So how do you make that work?
How do I make it work?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it was, all those, I talked about all those years I was doing in the monastery in 3 years. Yoeli, come say hi to my friends. 3 years in the monastery, it was among the hardest thing I ever did in my life. coming back and reintegrating basically my relationship to materiality and money and business and finances, all that stuff. It was even harder, but great, and it was very clear just in my own personal kind of life path that I was, I kind of went away and I achieved whatever I achieved. And then it was just so clear that the next step was actually to return to the marketplace, so to speak, and get to work, and I'll tell you the interesting thing, Sharifa, all of my issues around money, for example, or all of my issues around responsibility, or all of my issues around being organized and productive, that I basically left behind for years. I was 16 years out of society. When I came back, they were there waiting for me. So it's like, okay, so we're all growing and developing in our own ways. And you can be out of the world, meditating in a monastery, or you can be in the middle of the marketplace, but it's all an opportunity for personal development.
Yes.
Miles, I'm curious. 2 questions. Coming out of that stint, right? Can you remember what your first words were when you were like speaking again? And can you remember the feeling that you had when those words came out of your mouth, like landing on your ear? I imagine that must have been quite interesting.
Well, when are you asking me?
So you said you
like
were
after I was on retreat?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a 3 year straight silent retreat. My first retreat was a weekend, and I did a 10-day retreat, and then I went and did another 10-day retreat, and then I did a 3-month retreat. I would say the 10 days.
So what's the longest? So 10 days is the longest stretch?
No, for me? No,
Yes.
10 months is the longest stretch.
Okay, well, there we go. So 10 months. I mean, you say 10 months like I say 10 seconds.
I'm with you, Rocco.
I'm like, what are you like? Okay, but that's
like
your frame of reference.
It was wonderful. It was, and especially, well, I mean, so what's the question? There's so much I could say.
No, the question is like, okay, so
coming off retreat,
what is that? Yeah, it's like coming up for air. What is that feeling of speaking again? And how does your voice land on your ear? What's that feeling?
Oh yeah, it's very odd. Look, it's a long time ago that I finished my first few retreats, and for the first handful of retreats, the experience of kind of coming back to the marketplace, coming back to the world, was very odd. Speaking felt odd and foreign. Relating with people, and by the way, I was in Asia. I was in Southeast Asia, so where I was meditating was nice and quiet in the jungles or in the mountains. But then when you come back to the city, it's like, it's pretty chaotic, lots of pollution, lots of noise, and an assault on the senses. So that was always extreme. Or I'd leave the retreat. I'd go straight to the airport in Bangkok, fly straight to Amsterdam, for example, and walk out of next thing I know, a few hours later, I'm in a central station in Amsterdam with all of those, senses being assaulted. Yeah. So that was always strange. But what I did find was the more that I did it, that transition became less and less and less and less. And to the point where now I could do the last retreat I did again before I moved here and opened my business and took on my students and took on responsibilities, got married, had a family with kids. Before all that, the last retreat I did, the transition was seamless. I think it was a 2 or 3 month retreat. Go in, boom, meditate 3 months, come out, and then just hit the ground running, so to speak. And so there's no transition at all now.
Yeah, because it becomes habitual, right? It becomes muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
What an interesting conversation. I have more questions, but we do have to stop for a brief commercial break, and we will be right back.
You need jordansrooter.com. Get free estimates, 24-hour service, special discounts for seniors and veterans. That's jordansrooter.com. Have a home repair or some remodeling you need done? No problem. We can handle all that too. Give us a call today at 800-300-0358. At Jordan's Rooter, we take pride in our work and always make sure to get the job done right the first time. That's jordansrooter.com. We want to be your Mr. Fix-It.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
A good business consultant.
And I kept searching.
and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Thank you.
If you are looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend.
Problem gone.
Thank you.
If you are just now tuning into the Roundtable Talk Show, you definitely want to catch the show from the top of the show in the archives, because this isn't even a talk show today. This is a tutorial on how to be silent for months at a time. Rocco and I are learning from an expert on how to keep our mouths closed. So I have more questions. It's so interesting because I had a guest, I think a week or so ago, who talked about a 10-day retreat. And I was like, okay, I would never even, like, day one, they kicked me out for talking. Like, 'cause in school, I was that child who refused to stop talking. So I know I couldn't do a 10-day retreat. But you've done months at a time. So when I'm thinking about this and I'm imagining this, it kind of reminds me of Forrest Gump. You know, when he just decides one day to start walking. And he just walks. And then one day he just decides to stop. And no one knows why. They never explain why. How do you decide how long you're going to be silent? Is it like you commit to 10 months? Or, one day you just like, you know what, I want to talk today.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah. So I basically, when I was kind of on a program, I guess you could say, when I left Japan, I was teaching English there. I was studying Aikido full time, but I was pretty much in the Japanese society, and I really wanted to kind of step out. And when I left Japan, it was a period in my life where I was free with no obligations. I had enough money saved up. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a relationship. I didn't have any obligations. Nobody was dependent on me. So I wanted to kind of use that period for my own personal development. It was kind of, we all have these periods in our life, once, twice, three times, whatever. And this was it. So my plan was just to kind of travel around the world and do some meditation for a year. But when I do 10-day retreat, and I would realize, oh my God, I want to do more. And then I would go back, I'd do a 3-month retreat. At the end of the 3-month retreat, it's like, oh my God, no, I've got to do more. And that, and by the way, I was working in a very specific tradition with a very specific teacher. And we're kind of creating a relationship through the whole thing. And I realized that my practice is developing. And I realized that there was a goal. And that they have this kind of program that you go through, and you can't go through it in 9 months or 6 days or whatever it is. It just organically, it has to, you do the practice, you sit and practice. It's really so simple. It's just mindfulness practice. And you do that. And then the practice will, your development unfolds over time according to, yourself, and everybody's different. And basically, I didn't plan it being an 8-year period where I was going on retreat, but at the end of every winter retreat, I realized, well, no, I need to come back and do this again next year, and I need our next winter, and this is the time that I'm free to do it. So I would tour around Europe teaching Aikido, because I was already a professional Aikido teacher at that time. Save the money. I'd go back on retreat in the winter. At the end of that retreat, I'd realize, no, there's more that I want to do. And basically, in the tradition that I was practicing, there's the progressive insight that the mind, your meditation unfolds in a very specific, predictable way. There's a blueprint to consciousness, from total, let's say, ignorance, like no self-awareness at all, to total awakening or total awareness, whatever that is. And it unfolds in a very predictable way for everybody. It's the same for everybody. If you practice mindfulness, it'll unfold in a specific way. Now, everybody relates to it differently. Everybody experiences it differently, but the unfolding is the same. And when that started to become clear that I was actually on that path and it was happening, I just like, well, no, I'm going to keep doing this. And my teachers were right there. And then I would finish a certain, let's say, course of trainings. And then they would say, well, there's this, and then there's the next training you can do, and the next training. And it's kind of, you get to the point where you're almost in like mental Olympics, that you're just doing, you find that the mind can do things that will literally blow your mind. And then, so I kind of went through all of that. There was always more to do, but it was at a certain point in my life where I realized, okay, I had already kind of achieved what I was looking for. And it was also clear to me that the continuation of my development was back here. Back in the marketplace, back in relationships, back with money, back with dealing with people, and dealing with whatever the things that we deal with. So it was kind of a full circle thing.
What was the feeling? Sorry, you would realize that I'm a very mediocre podcast guest, and the host in me comes out, and I just want to ask questions, and
that's what we do here on the roundtable.
Perfect. So I want to know. The first time you came back, like you call it, the marketplace, I like that, and you didn't go back, right? Because because you said you would go back every time. What was that like? Was there a sense of, oh, something is missing?
No. I was so ready for it. I was so ready. I mean, in a way, you can, Rocco, you can see that because I had, I was in Dallas, Texas for 25 years, and I was in Japan for 8 years, and each one of those was a chunk of 25 years becoming an adult. Kind of, I'm still kind of a kid, but then going to Japan.
I'm still a kid. I'm still 7, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but developing everything I did in Japan and learning the language. I speak Japanese, by the way, and I kind of really went deep into that. But I realized that I needed to move on, and then going to do the meditation. It was just so crystal clear for me that it's time to come back, that it's time to really, really kind of make a go of it here. And even my professional life, my personal life, my, as a businessman, all that stuff was waiting for me. So I just kind of embraced it with vim and vigor. And what was easy about it, Rocco? Sure, there's challenging things, definitely challenging things. But what was easy about it was that what I'd achieved in Japan, totally satisfied. I didn't feel like, awesome. I'm missing something that I didn't do there. Totally satisfied. What I achieved in those 8 years of meditation, totally satisfied. I didn't feel like, I didn't get a chance to finish it. Totally. And it was just so clear that this is the next thing.
You're resonating so hard with me.
What's that?
You're resonating so hard with me because I've got a similar story or shared experience about that. Yeah. But I'll let you finish.
Well, I was just going to say, I had my kids at 50. I became a daddy at 50, and they
how
say,
old are you now? Sorry, how old?
I'm 58.
There's no way that there is no way.
Yeah, of course.
There is no way that he is 58.
1963, baby.
No. You look, it's all that meditation.
Yes, I gotta go meditate.
I gotta go meditate. So I have a shared experience in the sense that I advocate, if you have a bucket list of dreams, try and tick them off before 30 or 35 or before you have children. Those bucket list items become cruxes on your life, and they become cruxes on your relationships, and they become cruxes on your children. So a couple of mine, I wanted to see a Formula One Grand Prix. I did it in Germany. Hockenheim, I wanted to run with the Bulls. We went to Pamplona, Spain. We wanted to go to Ibiza, party with David Guetta. We did all those things before the age of 30 or 35. I'm turning now 37. And what's left, I can do. I'm more than comfortable postponing it to a later day, doing it with my sons. Luckily, I have sons, so they're all like a bit on the extreme, like, stuff to do. But I can just imagine wanting to do so many things that you can't really do with children, and then looking at them and saying, you are the reason that I can't do that. And I think so many people, it's not something that is said enough or spoken enough, because we're taught, no, you need to be grateful for family. Children are a blessing, and it's you are a parent now, and your life ends and theirs start. That's all true and well, but you also have you have stuff that you want to do in your life. So if, for instance, imagine now I want to go to Hawaii, right? And I've got a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old, and now it's COVID. And let's say that want is so strong in you that it overrides your mental capacity to think clearly. You find yourself sitting in a day and you're thinking, your mind is there. You're not present in your family. You're not present in your children. It breaks families and relationships part. Believe me, we're seeing, especially in South Africa now, it's something I feel very strongly about. We're seeing record levels of divorces. We are seeing record levels of single children being raised by like a father and a mother. I'm not saying that divorce is necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying due to COVID, we are seeing a record number of divorces. And it's because, what did COVID do? It forced us together. So you don't have that, oh, I can go out and play a round of golf, or I can do whatever. Now we're forced together, and now you're sitting with those, I still want to go do X, Y, Z. And that becomes the crush, and that crush becomes so strong that it breaks all those ties that hold you to your family and to your wife and to your loved ones, whoever it is. And that's something I'm passionate about, and passionate preaching is get it out of your system, whatever it is, in your 20s. People say, you need to be financially, you need to be financially responsible. I'm not advocating for being financially irresponsible. I'm saying find the line between doing your bucket list and making sound financial decisions.
I hear you, Rocco, but I also feel that those are, to me, multiple issues all thrown in one pot. I agree with you on the bucket list, get your bucket list done, but I also believe that there are a multitude of different reasons why there's a record level of divorces.
Oh, absolutely. I think I just highlighted one reason for me because I think on a personal level, a lot of I've seen it in a lot of my friends. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because we talk about things that hit home, right, Sharifa? We talk about things that like, oh, I knew X, Y, Z. And that's where the conversation goes. It might be totally anecdotal. It might just be 5 people. But for you, it's very real, and it impacts your relationship because you start thinking, "Oh my hell, what? These are all I've been on. I've been on their weddings. I've been to their bachelors. I've been to everything." And then all of a sudden, it's just like one after the other. So then it becomes real. But like you say, there's a myriad of reasons behind it.
No, I definitely agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. One of the things that I
lost
saw
Miles.
Miles is coming back. Miles is doing daddy daycare. Miles is fine.
I love it. Go, Miles. Go grab the children. I love it.
Yes. So, but one of the things that I saw personally is a friend of mine who has been married for years.
Sorry, for how long?
For years. I mean, 10, 15 years. Wow, and from what we saw from the outside, their marriage was fine. There were no problems. However, what happened during a global pandemic is 1 year prior to the pandemic, she got laid off from her job. During the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, he got laid off from his job. So now you have 2 people who are used to going out into the world, living their lives, going to work, having this commute, are now sitting at home on the couch, staring at each other. So it's like now they have to confront all these issues and have conversations, and they have more time but less money. So they began to argue more than they ever had. And I've seen a lot of people know their spouse, and we talk about it on a lot of the shows, better than they ever have. So I do believe there's an aspect of this is what I want to do, but I also think there's an aspect of now, parents talk about it. Their kids used to go to school. Even parents who worked at home, their kids were at school all day. Now you're trying to work, your kids are at home, your grocery bill that was $100 a month is now $500 a month. So there's so many, there's so many more issues at hand than prior. Does that make sense?
That makes
total sense.
Makes so much sense. Total sense. And you touch on a very sore subject there for me, which is that inflation, and that, they reckon when in America, the Fed targets 2% or 4% inflation, take that amount and divide it, times it by 3, and then you get actual real inflation. So in my currency, which is South African ZAR, we went to buy milk last week. Let's say it's like $1, right? 1 week after, it becomes $1.50. That's inflation. So to say that inflation isn't real, or like Jerome Powell says, inflation is transitory, I just believe that is disingenuous to everyone, to the American people, but also it's not only him; it's central banks all over the world that does it. It's hard because your income, especially if you are like employed with an employer, you don't get that increases, right? Those yearly increases to keep up with inflation. So we're seeing people picking up side hustles. That's where the side hustle culture comes from. Again, things like the Great Resignation, which is good because people realized that you cannot depend on one income stream. People are like, we've got hands in many like cookie jars and stuff that's going on, because if you have one income stream and that gets taken away, what are you going to do? Like, you are replaceable. You are replaceable. Sharifa, maybe not you, because I mean, the round table, you are the round table, so you are irreplaceable.
But this is a result of everything I've gone through. I've been laid off 8 times, and that's not an average. It's not about 8. No, 8 times.
Yeah, it's 8. It counted.
8. I counted each and every layoff that hurt my pocketbook. You know, but I want to go back to what you were saying about inflation, because I love what you were saying. But here, at least, it wasn't just it was $1 prior. Now it's $5. You know, the same things that we could have bought. You know, a friend of mine has a restaurant. Prior to COVID, a gallon of oil or a container of oil, cooking oil, was $8 in her restaurant. That same bottle of cooking oil is now literally $32.
That's insane.
Exactly. So it's not just $1.50. We can all, go with that. I do a lot of Uber Eats, a lot of Postmates. Prior to the pandemic, I can get a meal for maybe $7 to $10. Now my meal is at least $22, $23 for one meal. So I feel sorry for the parents, who have this huge family, because they have to feed everyone. I'm just feeding myself. What are your thoughts, Miles?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's so many different ways we could go with this, but if I try to find the kind of the thread that runs through it all, it's just a that adversity, which, whether it's a relationship or inflation or, pandemic or lockdowns or, whatever, COVID, getting sick, whatever the case, it's a massive disruptive change to the system, to the sense of self. And again, if I just kind of tie this into Buddhism for a second, I don't want to get too religious or anything like that, because I'm not really Buddhist in that sense. But the very first teaching, it's called the Noble Truth. The first Noble Truth. It's a high truth. High meaning, not that it's higher than everything else. It's just kind of a universal truth. It's not a like the cooking oil is $8 there and it's $16 and $32 over there. Those are all relative truths. This is kind of an absolute universal truth, is that unsatisfactoriness exists. It's a fact of life. It's not always unsatisfying, but it exists, and that it exists because things are changing, constantly changing. And you and I, the human condition, is grasping for some type of stability and security. And it's that and if we just look at a human level, it's the grasping that actually causes us to suffer and to kind of not go through things well. And we've been through a massive disruption on a global level in the past 2 years. And I was like grabbing every level I could. Even though I've done tons of meditation, I'm still like, how can I make apples out of, or make orange juice out of this, make lemonade out of this, out of these lemons,
make apples out of oranges,
whatever the hell it was. And it's that's just the way, and that's the truth. So from a personal practice perspective, it's like, instead of kind of turning away from, oh my God, here he goes again, oh my God, how do I deal with this? It's like, no, drop into your center, drop into the present moment, feel your body, feel your emotions, feel your, check out the mind and breathe, and then relate to the truth that things are changing, that we may need to kind of tighten the belt these days. And we're not in the happy days or here again phase yet. Again, I'm an optimist. I know that we will be. I'm quite confident that we will be. I mean, I'm not a psychic or anything, but I confident, but we're not there yet. And the only way we will get there is actually by actually accepting, no, this is what's going on now, and somehow learning to navigate and negotiate and relate to that with some type of emotional agility, because that's the way forward. That's the developmental path forward.
Would you
So if you
consider
look at
that practicing mindfulness, Miles?
Excuse me?
Because you mentioned several times, some people say I practice meditation. You don't refer to it as meditation. You refer to it as I practice mindfulness. Is that what you consider practicing mindfulness?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, mindfulness is just being aware of what's arising in the present moment. There's different types of meditation, but there's basically two types. One is concentration-based meditation, where you do a mantra or visualize something, and these are using conceptual objects to even a prayer. There's a conceptual object to focus you on concentration and enter into really deep states of tranquility. The other type of meditation is mindfulness, which basically means that you meditate on, you focus your attention on what's arising in the present moment. Sounds through the five senses and in the mind. That's mindfulness. So it's not conceptual objects, but there's thoughts happening, there's judgment happening, there's planning happening, there's pain in my knee, there's breath happening. So that's the type of meditation that is mindfulness based. And that's the type of meditation that I shouldn't say that's the type of meditation. I say mindfulness is actually the thing that we need to have to in our own respective ways to negotiate our way forward, because we have to be present with what's actually, what is the situation arising before us.
It sounds like a commercial. I love it. Rocco, I cut you off. What was your question?
I was just about to say that history teaches us I always say history teaches us, if history teaches us anything, it's that we learn nothing, because the history is there and it shows that we will be fine in the future. This is a period of strife. It's a cycle that we go through. But to Miles's point, I love mantras. One of my favorites these days, every morning, I say to myself, control what you can. And that's, for me, is a very powerful mantra at the moment, because he said, just like, there are so many things happening that's beyond the scope of your control. But if you just focus on trying to control what you can, you're already like your little circle, you're already like cutting out a lot of those signals and noise ratios. And basically, you'll find that the things that are giving you stress, at the end of the day, it's not really a stress, because if you can't do anything about it, then what's the point? So control what you can.
And let go of everything else.
Yeah. Yes. You have that radio voice, Miles, and you do it right into the mic.
Miles, do you have an ebook?
It's for the meditation effect.
Miles, does Miles have an ebook that I can listen to? I can play to my children to sleep, because he's got a very nice cadence and tonality, and I think that would be very nice.
I haven't recorded any of my kids' stories, but I've got tons of them, sure.
Yes, you have to, so we can all listen so you go to sleep. I like that.
In a good way.
Yes. It's soothing. That's what I'm saying. That's what you
absolutely.
Sometimes when I'm doing the show and I talk to different people, I will ask them, okay, do you teach meditation? Because you have a very soothing voice. It's like an art to just speak and just soothe people so that all their worries, all their stress, everything is just gone. I don't have that kind of voice. I have one of those, high pitched, what's going on, people?
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, but can I say something about that? Again, not so much about voice, but the types of voices we have. I'm not a speech specialist or anything like that, but I think that there's conversations like this one, that where we kind of organize our thoughts around something relevant. Again, we're three very different people with different backgrounds and fields of expertise, and here we are having sharing in this dialogue. But there's types of there are conversations where you're in a way if we go back to Rocco's analogy of the signal versus the noise, you're in the signal, you're in the zone, and you are left feeling like your battery is charged completely. And then there's other types of conversations and or activities where we're in a lot of noise, and you are left feeling like your battery is drained. And that's, for everybody in any type of, if you're really interested in some type of personal development, whatever it might be. It's a wonderful kind of compass point that those activities, like Rocco was speaking about this a little bit, those activities will actually leave our batteries drained. Some things, okay, we have to do it. We have to change our kids' diapers, and that can actually be a joyful experience, or it can be a chore. Joyful experiences charge our battery. Chores drain our batteries. But really kind of attuning to those things and those types of conversations, those types of relationships that charge our batteries, as we need to have at least 51% of those. Hopefully more, but at the very least 51% of those versus the 49% of things that take out our battery, or else we're just going to burn out. We're on a downward slope.
I like that. I can tell you've been meditating. You got that Mr. Miyagi vibe. Like, it's simple. Wax off.
Sharifa, you have no idea. On the other side of this wall is my dojo, and there's a class going on there now. And in 5 minutes, I have to go teach my Aikido class. So I'll be in my Mr. Miyagi mode soon enough.
Yes, this has been an interesting conversation, a lot of fun. We are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Rocco.
Sharifa, thank you so much for the opportunity. I think my takeaway from today is, if you realize you can't depend on one income stream, find your skill set. If you don't have a skill set, go learn one. We've never been in a better age in technology. Everything is there. Udemy, Skillshare, all those things. Skill yourself, upskill yourself, sell to your friends, sell to your family. Go make an extra income. Catch us on the SGM podcast every week, Wednesday, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Go to Google. Just type in SGM podcast and you'll find our Linktree page with all our social media. Everything is there. Connect with us. Every week we have a new interesting guest coming on to talk about either business, finance, or tech. And it's only 10 to 15 minutes long. So it's perfect for your morning commute or your afternoon commute or your morning coffee.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rocco. Miles, what do you have for the people?
Well, first let me say my takeaway. It's been wonderful meeting you, Sharifa.
Thank you.
And I love what you're doing here. So thank you very much for being who you are and sharing this the roundtable with me. Also, Rocco, great to meet you. And I love your enthusiasm and yeah, it's great to hear somebody talk about money and finances with a positive, energizing vibe. So thank you for that. As far as me, yeah, if anybody is interested in meditation, I have a lot of programs that I run, but I basically have a membership program called the Meditation Discovery Cycle, where we meet twice a month, and I send out practice videos every week. If anybody is interested, because you are friends with Sharifa,
yay!
I'm going to give you guys a free 1 month access to join the Meditation Discovery Cycle. Would love to have you come with us. We have a great group of pretty good sized community over there that meditates, and we'd love to have you. Reach out to me on the socials, Miles Kessler on Facebook. Just send me a message on Messenger. If you're on Instagram, Miles Kessler, send me a DM, and I will be very happy to set you up with a free month access to the program.
I love it. Thank you. You might have to check it out. I want to thank you both for being guests on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sharing. But the most important thing to me, as always, is that you support our guests. Our guests are here this morning to share their lives, their stories, their experiences with you. So please support them. Their website link is in the Facebook post. Follow them on social media, reach out to them, send them a message. And when you do, please let them know. Sharifa Hardy says hi. Hi. See, Sharifa Hardy says hi. So if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at asksharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.